No. Look to the western sky.
Is Slender Man a child? Dorothy, first of all, gay icon.
Is it Ben Platt's dad?
Yes.
Musical guest,
Adele Daisy.
Jeffrey Dahmer ate people. Ted Bundy was charismatic. Anyways.
Between February 1692 and May 1693, more than 200 people were accused of witchcraft in Salem, Massachusetts.
By the end of the Salem witch trials, the Massachusetts Bay Colony had executed 14 women, 5 men, and 2 dogs.
My name is Blair.
And I'm Carley.
This is Girl Historians.
The Salem Witch Files.
Ahoy! Welcome back to Girl Historians.
I'm Carley.
And I'm also Carley. Just kidding, I'm Blair.
Oh, you're crazy for that one, Blair. This is the comedy podcast where we talk about history and we're also girls.
And this season we've been talking about the Salem witch trials.
Absolutely.
But today we're coming back at you with part 2 of Wicked.
Wicked part 2, like the movie.
We kind of thought of it before the movie. We were just like really were on pause.
Honestly, I think we should sue.
I think we should sue.
We should sue.
Bowen Yang.
We're coming for you, Bowen.
Contact us for no other reason than we want to sue you.
Absolutely. You contact us.
You
because
contact
we're
us.
going to sue you.
Yeah, we're going to sue you. You contact us.
So this week, we're discussing behind the scenes.
Yes.
The going-ons of Wicked, the inception of it, the book it was based on.
Yeah, we're really going behind the curtains. And we're talking about, we are making some queer accusations.
Yes, the queer accusations are flying. We talk about Girl Historians making its daytime television debut.
Yes.
And Taylor Swift a little bit, but like don't get too excited.
Don't get too excited.
It's not like we're going through.
Yeah, don't worry. One day when we both have like a death wish, we'll do a Taylor Swift
It'll
episode.
be the last episode and then we will go into hiding.
Yeah,
Once the bunker is completed, then we will do the Taylor Swift episode.
All the ad revenue we're funneling into a bunker.
So we can do the Taylor Swift episode.
Yes.
All right, let's get into it.
Yay! Welcome back.
To part 2 of Wicked Aganza here on the Girl Historians podcast.
Or should I say ahoy?
All right.
That's what I'm going to say. No longer do we say ahoy. We say hello. And then we say, or should I say ahoy?
Welcome ahoy.
Welcome ahoy. Welcome aboard. Back to Wicked Part 2. So in Wicked Part 1, we kind of went over a summary of the plot of Wicked and Wicked in our own personal lives.
Yes.
And we sang the entire discography.
We should.
Rob might have cut it, but I think sure it's been left in.
I have faith in Rob.
I have faith that the 3 hours we sat here learning all the parts and singing them out loud.
Well, because I had to learn the harmony.
Yeah, it was really, really difficult to learn the harmonies. So probably that's made into the episode.
Yeah, we were both singing the harmony, so it's going to sound really fucked up.
Really bad. I have a friend who always takes the high harmony, and then whenever I'll sing something, because I kind of just, dilly-dally. So if I go like, defy, I go, defy! And it's unnerving. It's so stressful. Going to karaoke with this guy is stress, but fun.
But fun.
Stress, but fun.
Yeah.
So let's get, I kind of want to just jump into Wicked.
Let's do it, because I can talk for days about harmonies.
This is I know all I have is
Fifth harmony.
Oh my God, work from home. I used to know the whole work from home dance.
That's
I
so
used
sweet.
to have goals and skills.
And like doing the work from home dance. I saw Fifth Harmony in concert twice.
Oh my God.
And it was the most jank
10th
ass,
Harmony.
low rent fucking concert you can imagine. It was crazy. I did a meet and greet with them. And here's what I'll say. I've met Fifth Harmony 3 times. And let me tell you who are the nicest.
Oh, okay. I'm excited.
Tell you.
Excited.
Do you want to guess which one is the nicest?
Okay. I think Normani.
It's Normani.
Yeah.
She is a fucking, I know she's not listening to Girl Historians.
She's a
but
rocket.
maybe she is. But she was so nice each time. I made them all, this is so embarrassing to admit. But I made them like mixtapes.
Oh, that's awesome.
And on one of them, for one that was on Normani's, it was like, it was Tightrope by Janelle Monáe.
Yes.
And she was just talking about how much she loves Janelle Monáe. And I just like the kindest woman. They were all like, nobody was mean, but like she was like, it was also that thing I can imagine.
She's got a really good aura.
It would be like what it would be like to meet Marilyn Monroe or something, where you're just like, wow, this is a beautiful, kind woman.
Yeah.
So like, just like a sun like lights up. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
We're waiting on the album,
my God.
Normani.
Normani, oh my God, I wish I could be her publicist.
And here's the thing. Am I about to do some Camila Cabello slander? Absolutely. There is no justice in this world, that she is the one
And it's also
that
just
is
like,
taken off from there.
it reminds me of being in musical theater high school, and there was one girl with an annoying voice, and she got a bunch of roles, and it was like, why are you singing like this? I love it, 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 I love it. She goes,
No. This is the whole thing about teams or whatever, right? It's like if you just
no
get
one
a good
should be
team.
on a team. Oh no, sorry, never mind.
Well, yeah,
Get a good team. No, never mind.
Go back to that.
No,
thing.
let's move on.
But all that's to say, Normani is an absolute. They were all really nice, but like she was like a gem. Like, you know, when you meet somebody,
Oh
you're
my
like, oh, this
God.
is she's working the room.
Yeah, she's got it.
And surely, I mean, I wasn't really plugged in. Surely she faced an incredible amount of racism in Fifth Harmony.
Oh, I think like directly from Camila Cabello was
right,
the
because she said the
accusation.
N-word on her
Yeah.
Tumblr all the time.
Yeah, which is insane.
That's insane.
No, insane. And I just kind of like, to me, I'm like, I try not to waste too much energy caring about celebrities, but every time I see Camila Cabello, I'm just sort of like,
No, I feel the same.
what are we doing?
I
Like,
feel the same.
What
What
are we doing?
realm are we on? Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Where, like, what? It's one of those things, like, it's like, and we don't have time to go into this. We simply can't go into this in full, but I didn't like the new Taylor Swift album that much.
I won't listen to it.
You don't have to. It's not worth it. But when I listened to it, I didn't like it because I told you, I was like, I just listened to the first line of the new Taylor Swift album and she talks about the Chelsea Hotel and Patti Smith, and I had to absolutely take my headphones off. That was enough for me.
Oh my God.
So I looked up reviews trying to find anybody who was saying anything about it, and nobody was really saying anything. But the tide has shifted a little bit, so it's getting criticized now. But in the beginning, it was like groundbreaking, her best work yet. And I was like,
when Rolling Stones gave it a badge, it said instant classic.
I was like, you're a liar.
Rolling Stones, you used to have respect.
that's what I'm just like, it's
What
just
is
not.
this?
And I like Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't, it's not her best.
Also, just like,
And,
I'm
like,
sorry,
if
instant
she-
classic, give me a
No.
freaking break.
Well, and it's like, if she wants to be an artist, and I said this on the social.
Yes. And I watched The Social this morning because Carley was on The Social again.
I was
so exciting.
promoting girl historians.
You really did. I got
was.
an insanely confused email from my aunt who thinks that we've co-written a book.
Yes. Congratulations on the book, by the way.
She
Blair.
emailed me and my father being like, Blair's co-writer, Carley, was on The Social today. I didn't know they'd put out a book. I'd like a copy. I've texted the rest of the family. No one knows about this book. I've been keeping some sort of covert secret of this.
And I want to really, really, really hit the fact that when I was on The Social, the Canadian talk show, I didn't reference books at all.
No, because I
talk about books and I write. So you would assume that in some way I reference books. So then in her brain, she goes, oh, this is the book.
Because I watched
No.
it this morning because I was like, I'm going to try and decode this email because clearly Carly said something like, I talk about books on YouTube, or I'm writing a book, or I'm writing something. Nothing. No mention of anything.
No mention of books.
It was literally that they posted the Girl Historian's cover photo.
Yes.
And I think they said it's the cover photo. My aunt went, clearly a book has been published. This is their book.
I feel like we should, if it's on, I haven't watched because I find it really hard to like watch myself in an environment like that because it's,
You look gorgeous on
that's
it.
nice.
You
But
look gorgeous all the
It's
time.
like removed from the context of my fan base and like the niche part of the internet that I'm on, and it makes me very nervous. Like they posted a Taylor Swift clip and it has like 127,000 views on Reels, and I'm like, I simply
Wait for you saying it? Oh, that's stressful.
no, and that's why I'm like, I just
Oh my
have
God.
banned myself from looking at that because I know I'll scroll through all the comments and they're gonna be mean, but that's like
whatever.
fine. Like,
Yeah,
that's
no,
fine.
you don't
Do you know what
care.
I mean? Like, that's life. It's also Taylor
Yeah.
Swift. Also, to succeed on that show, you have to say truly out of pocket shit that you don't even really believe. Like, that's what you have to do.
The method to the madness.
That's the method to the damn madness. But I went on to promote Girl Historians, and I said, they're like, oh, well, what kind of things do you talk about? And I was like, well, we talk about like the Salem witch trials, and we find out facts that you would never really know unless you did some research. Like 2 dogs died in the Salem witch trials. And then the audience went, ooh. And I was like, oh, I've fucked the vibe. I have fucked the vibe.
No. Oh no. Yeah, it's just a whole different. Also, just like the whole thing of like the concept of the show is amazing, where it's just hot topics all the time.
It's crazy. Well, I told you that they snuck in. So they send you the list of topics a little bit behind the scenes. They send you a list of topics being like, these are what you're going to talk about. And then I wake up at 10 a.m. and I have to be there at 11 a.m. And they go, by the way, you're actually going to talk about Canada's gun buyback program.
Is crazy. Like talking about gun control on TV with and I was watching this morning as I was like doing my makeup for this audition I had. And I was like just kind of passively listening. Like I had it propped up, whatever, so I could see it. And then all of a sudden they were just like, Carly, what do you think about the Canadian gun program? I was like, this is crazy.
It was absolutely, because they let you pick. They're like, pick the ones that you will talk about and the ones you won't talk about. So I went through and was like, anything that was like, there's chemicals in our water. I'm like, well, I've got nothing to say about that. I'll talk about the new season of Bridgerton.
Yeah.
I'll talk about Taylor Swift.
Also, whenever people are like, there's chemicals in the water, it's like, yeah, like, what do you
want? In
want?
the air and everything else.
What do you want? Chemicals, everything.
Was there anything you were looking at, something, Rob, that you were laughing at? Is there anything I need to know?
The comments aren't that bad.
Okay, that's good to know. That's actually really nice of you to say. Thank you for doing
also,
that.
And this
that actually has taken, I'm going to say, maybe 70% of the anxiety off my shoulders, you saying that, and that's kind.
The comments are, none of them are against you. They're just sort of like, you don't understand why I love this album. It's like, probably not.
No, well, we're going to have a different opinion. And also, it's taken out of context. Like, what I said at the end of it is I was like, I love Taylor Swift. I think she's an artist, and I think she considers herself an artist.
Yeah.
And if you are an artist, not everyone's going to get what you're trying to do. And that's what's great about art. Like, that's truly what it is. And if it's not for me, it can be for someone else. I think that's totally fine. But again, when you're clipping stuff. Anyways, that stuff always makes me very, very anxious. And once it's out of my brain for a bit, I'll feel fine.
Yeah.
But it's this idea
I know what you mean.
of being clipped and then put out. Like, and this is the thing that I hated when I was working at CBC, of just like being like, you have to have this opinion. And we're going to take it and put it out of context and just send it to people that don't get you. Do you know what I mean?
We're going to clip it and then ruin your life.
Well, there was one, like the one when I was on the first time. It didn't get really any negative reviews. There's like one comment that was kind of negative. But like, again, I'm on YouTube. Who fucking cares? That doesn't bother me. But then one other person was like, oh, why are her hands shaking so much? And my hands are, like, if you look at it, like my hands are shaking because it's like so adrenaline. And my mom commented being like, maybe she's nervous about being on TV. But if you don't know this, my first name, Carley, is my mother's maiden name.
That's so funny.
So her Instagram handle is basically just Carley Thorne. So it looks like I've clapped back against a hater from my Finsta with my name being like, maybe I'm just nervous.
Maybe I'm just nervous.
Have you considered that I'm nervous about being on TV?
Have you considered that I've been on TV and you haven't? Bitch.
Let's talk about Wicked.
Wicked. So, Wicked started as a novel called Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West. What?
I just agreed. I said we.
Oh, we? I thought you meant we, like the Wicked Times.
Oh, no. We, like O-U-I.
Oh,
we.
So it started as a novel written in the 90s by a guy named Gregory Maguire. Love him.
I just have nothing to say about this. Like, I'm just listening to you.
He's kind of an icon. So he was living in London in the 90s, thinking about the nature of good and evil. He's like,
as you do.
Me AF.
Quite
and that
simply.
happens when you go to London and you don't have a lot of friends and you're just sort of like, what's the nature of good and evil? So his whole question was sort of like, basically like, if you call someone evil, is it a self-fulfilling prophecy?
Like Scar.
Like Scar, because his name is Scar. So he's
going to become fucked up if you name him Scar.
You name him Scar. And then he has this quote. How would they have to deal with the weight of being called evil? If everyone was always calling you a bad name, how much of that would you internalize? How much of that would you say, all right, go ahead. I'll be everything that you call me because I have no capacity to change your minds anyway. So why bother?
That's
By whose standards should I
metal.
live?
Like, that's metal. Like, that's true. I think that's true. If somebody was like, you're evil. You're evil.
Like, okay, I'm evil then. Like,
yeah, because I think like we all have those things that people told you that you were growing up, and as an insult, like, like you're selfish or whatever.
Yeah, and
like, then
well,
as an adult, you're like, I have that story in my head, no matter what, that I'm selfish or whatever.
100%. That's why I think like the stuff you were told before you were 10 years old truly sticks with you your whole life.
Nobody should be a parent. Like, I know we have to repopulate the human race or whatever, but like,
yeah,
nobody's ready for it.
No one's ready for it.
No.
And there's no right
my
time.
mom, but you know what I mean? Like,
no, I know 100%.
I love my mom, but the amount of times it's like if you win an argument with your mother and she's like, I guess I'm the worst mother ever. And you're like, no, we're talking.
Like,
no,
okay.
This is not how we talk.
Okay.
This is simply not how we talk to each other.
No, 100%.
I guess I'm the worst and you're perfect.
Yeah. Also in 1993 in London, there was a murder of James Bulger. And he was a child who was murdered by other children.
I was going to make a joke and I'm so happy you finished that sentence. I was drinking and that was kind of God interfering where I was supposed to make a joke before you said it was a child.
God said no.
No. Let her finish.
Let her finish.
Let her finish.
So it was a child brutally murdered by two other children. Crazy.
Like the Slenderman murders.
Okay. Is Slenderman a child?
Well, no, but there was those two girls that were worshiping Slenderman and they brought their friend out to the woods and stabbed her 37 times, but then she didn't die. She dragged herself to the road and was saved.
Did this happen in real
life? You didn't know this? It was for Slenderman, but it was really just that they were mentally ill.
Yeah,
and they
clearly.
they were in prison, but they were like maybe 15 or whatever, and the whole like deal of their release was this idea that like they can't contact each other anymore.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
that's
they
insane.
couldn't finish the job because women.
Women can't do it. Can't finish anything.
I guess we know how it takes 2 men to kill a child, but 2 women. I guess they're all 2 boys and 2 girls.
Yeah, so this murder was this horrific murder of a child by 2 other children. And so there was a lot of
Just
discussion.
like if we were a true crime podcast.
Yeah, basically. If we're like murder, we could never have a true crime podcast. We can't even talk about the Titanic without being wildly offensive.
No, but here's the thing. My unpopular, it's not an unpopular opinion now. I feel like it's very popular, but like true crime podcasts are in such poor taste.
Yeah, it's gotta
Just
go.
being like, wig,
Wait!
slay mama Ted Bundy, boots the house down Jeffrey, what's his name, who eats brains?
Jeffrey Epstein?
No, who eats brains?
Jeffrey Eugenides.
He's the gay one who's a cannibal.
Oh, the
Dahmer.
clown. Jeffrey Dahmer.
No, you're thinking of John Wayne Gacy, who was a pedophile, who was a clown who
yes.
killed kids.
Jeffrey
Dahmer ate people. Ted Bundy was charismatic. Anyways. Continue.
Okay.
I loved Criminal Minds growing up, so I just kind of know a bit about this.
Clearly. Anyway, this child was horrifically murdered by 2 other children, and there was a lot of talk amongst the town folk of London about like, I know, like, how could these children who were children be so evil? Like, was it like in their nature to be evil, or was it circumstance that made them evil? And so he was thinking a lot about this.
That
because
shit is really fucking crazy,
it's
dude.
insane. Because like, yeah, how do you even get that idea if you're a little kid?
But it's also the thing
Like they were like
say,
little kids.
I know. Well, that's kind of crazy, and I think that that's like a lot of, I don't know. There's some kind of children are so often like exposed to violence, whether it be at home or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think they really internalize it. Kids love to be like, we're gonna beat him up. I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
And you're like, you don't really seem to know what that means.
Yeah.
So I would argue in this, like, you don't know the weight of it when
Yeah.
you're like 8 or whatever. But even so, like they say this with school shootings and suicide and a lot of like really mass acts of violence that, not always, but a lot of the time, like if you can get out of the woods of like your teenage years,
And your brain won't let you do that stuff.
exactly, like
Yeah.
your brain is so impulsive and wild before it's cooked fully that
Yeah.
it's just like if you can make it out of those years. That's why so many people who do it are younger, because your impulse control is so bad and your life is bad. Like
Yeah.
we talked about not committing a suicide in high school as our
But you
one.
really freaking shouldn't.
You shouldn't do it because like, yeah, life is awful in high school, but also your brain is like, I should die. One person is a little mean to you and you're like, I should die.
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 I should end it here.
But it's like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it's really, that's wild to think about.
It really is. So
This little boy was murdered.
this little boy was murdered. So Gregory Maguire, the author of this book, had been a children's author up until this point. So he hadn't put out any books for adults. And so
Generally what a children's author.
yeah, he put out
is.
children's books and not adult books.
Me when I'm trying to get my word count.
He was
He was a children's book
children's-
author.
so he
So
was-
up until this point, he hadn't actually written anything for adults.
anything for adults. He had simply put out books for children to read and
Otherwise
consume
known as not
and read,
adults.
otherwise known as not adults.
So,
children
adults have
often
not read his work.
known in some sectors as pre-adults.
For adults. Anyways.
So he was like thinking about this nature of good and evil, and he was like, well, there's no real evil characters in children's books. But then he was like, wait, there are, but they're always very one-dimensional. They're a scar, where it's just like, this is evil. This
Yeah,
is
you
kind
don't
of a
even know why
caricature.
they're evil,
You don't
yes.
even know why. They're just evil, and you have to accept that they're evil.
Yeah.
And so he was like, I'm gonna, and this is the most London sentence I've ever read in my entire life. I've never been to London, but I imagine this is what happens to your brain when you go to London. He was like, I'm gonna write a book. I'm going to use my lifelong love of The Wizard of Oz, because he was a huge Wizard of Oz fan. I'm going to use my lifelong love of The Wizard of Oz to write a novel from the perspective of the Wicked Witch of the West, using the the techniques and moral questions found in the work of Charles Dickens.
Fuck me. Fuck this. Fuck this. I hate it here.
So he's like, what if The Wizard of Oz was 800 pages long? And
bro,
the morals were just
beef,
everywhere.
Bro, I have beef with Charles
This
Dickens.
guy-
Girl, get an editor. Like, I'm sorry. I know you get paid. I know similarly to Blair talking about children's books, you get paid by the word. But bro, like, I'm sorry. Great Expectations.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing where it's just like, it makes a lot of sense that he was pulling from Charles Dickens.
I know, because the book sucks.
I can't remember, because also I read it, like I used to read these like insane novels when I was too young to be reading them.
Oh, this is-
and then I'd be
yes.
like, well, this is amazing because it's a big book. So
Well,
I love it.
I told you that I read To Kill a Mockingbird when I was, I think, like 12. And then recently saw the To Kill a Mockingbird play and was shocked by the ending.
Yeah, because you just had not digested
I
it
thought
at
that
all.
Jim is his name. The man who's on trial.
Boo Radley.
No.
No.
Boo Radley's the neighbor. I think his name is Jim. Jim Robinson or something like that? Tom Robinson. So I thought that at the end of To Kill a Mockingbird, that Tom Robinson, who is a black man in the South who's been wrongly accused of raping a white woman, he gets like acquitted of all charges because I remembered that Atticus Finch proves that it didn't happen.
Yes.
Kind of thing. It's a great book. Like you should, it's fucking fire. And then at the end, a vicious racist tries to kill one of the kids. Boo Radley saves them.
Yeah.
So everybody's, everybody's, all these people that we all thought we thought they were one way, but they're actually really great, whatever. Tom dies.
Yeah.
He gets sent to jail even though it's proved wrong. And then he gets shot in prison. And that's happened. And I'm like, I read the book. What the fuck did I think happened? I knew that Scout got almost stabbed while she was dressed as a fucking ham.
That's crazy.
That doesn't leave you.
It's a crazy book. Well, it didn't leave me that she was dressed as a ham.
No,
That's
that was the
only
thing.
I
The
remember.
ham was in. Like, I remembered ham 12 years later.
I think I talked about this, but like I had a school project where we had to be To Kill a Mockingbird characters on Facebook and have a Facebook profile.
Oh my God.
Of everyone. And it was honestly, truly, we had so much fun. Just a blast. And I was Scout.
Tom Robinson is being convicted of a crime.
Literally what it was. I should find this and show you. You'll get a real kick out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Gregory Maguire writing this was also reflecting on his Catholic upbringing, how there's like an inherent—
Why not?
Because there's an inherent moral battle inside every Catholic, and we know this for sure. And he also reflected on the times he'd go to Catholic school, and the Catholic nuns had a really strict moral code that they adhered to, and that he perceived them as evil because they wouldn't bend their moral code.
I think that's fucking true. I mean, we talked about this, like not really being religious at all, but going to a Christian school.
Yeah.
And I'm just like— you are just taught from a young age, every single fucking story you're told is being like, well, this guy's good and the others are evil.
Absolutely.
And when I really think that my school, although really fucked me up for a really long time, I do think that they taught the whole like Jesus thing in a good way and a way that I think should be taught more. And they didn't do it as dirty as I wanted to do it, but it's being like, this is a person who was like—
Jesus.
Well, he was like friends with sex workers and all this stuff. And then Christians have taken that and been like, no, if you do any of these things, so actually I know God said he would forgive you for this. And Jesus said he died so that people are allowed to sin and be forgiven. But don't do that.
Yeah.
And if you're gay, you're going to hell.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. Like I think it was
but
like—
the whole book he said, but the whole book doesn't make any sense.
He said that that's not a problem.
He said, I died, so this isn't a problem.
So it's not a problem.
I'm literally dying, so you guys will chill the fuck out about this.
Literally. Anyway.
He's struggling with his Catholic.
He's thinking a lot about this. He's thinking about being a Catholic. Also, elphaba is into animal rights. That's a part in the book that is also present in the movie. And then Gregory Maguire has been quoted as saying that when he was writing the novel, he never saw it as a musical. However—
Well, that's not crazy. Like, I don't know.
However, he pictured elphaba as being able to sing, and in his head had cast her as Katie Lang. Canadian lesbian songstress Katie Lang was his elphaba headcanon. Isn't that insane?
That's really weird.
So I wrote elphaba lesbian confirmed.
For sure.
Right?
That's a wild
for elphaba,
pick.
but
That's
honestly, like kind
pick.
of shifts like how you think about this because
Yes.
Katie Lang is very like, and love her icon, but she is like on the outskirts of what we think a woman is, and it was interesting.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say like what we think a woman is, but like
But
you know,
what
like,
is societally accepted in terms of like femme presenting
like
people?
she's kind of butch. She's like, you know, the short hair, like very like
Yeah.
openly lesbian and stuff like that, like more like very kind of boyish clothing and stuff like that. Like it's very cool that like, oh, so that's how you saw this character being.
Yes.
Is really cool.
I like that.
So then let's move on to the musical because that's what we're here for. So Stephen Schwartz writes the music for this.
Absolutely.
He's the
Just
main guy.
Fucking killed it.
So he's reading the book Wicked by Gregory Maguire on vacation.
Okay, very Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah,
reading
100%.
Alexander Hamilton's biography.
The way to get a great musical made is go on vacation.
It's also really
And find some
funny.
IP.
It's so funny to be like, well, like they just can't be like, well, I was just reading the book, fucking period.
Yeah.
They had to be like, no, I was on vacation. The only time you read.
Really? So he's like, I want to adapt this into a musical. And then he finds out that Universal Studios owns the movie rights.
Fuck.
And so he calls up a producer at Universal Studios. I'm going to give you one guess who the producer
Harvey
he calls
Weinstein?
up. No, it's not Harvey
Thank
Weinstein.
God. Okay.
Okay.
That was my guess.
Do you want to? Okay. He calls up what?
Is it Ben Platt's dad?
Yes.
Right. Ben
Mark
Platt.
Platt.
No, because we've all seen the famous Ben Platt Facebook post.
Yes.
My name is Ben Platt. son of Mark Platt, in parentheses, producer of Wicked.
Producer of Wicked.
To the Wicked fans Facebook group.
So Stephen Schwartz calls up Mark Platt, father of Ben Platt.
Hey, Ben Platt's dad.
Hey, Ben Platt daddy. I really want to make Wicked into a musical, and I see that Universal has the movie rights. And Gregory Maguire is like, to convince you, the reason that like the studio never wants to make the movie is because everyone knows that people in Oz sing. So it doesn't make sense to make it into just a straight film. You have to make it into a thing where they sing, because in The Wizard of Oz, they all sing and they want singing and the people want them to sing. And so it's fucked up if you put them in without the singing. And then also the reason that the movie studio had been stalling on it was that they didn't want to sink like $100 million into a movie, big fantasy epic movie with no like lead male parts. Yeah, sexism.
Also, like, especially considering that, like, I feel like the reason Wicked is so iconic is like you just have two women absolutely ripping it.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
That's why it's fun.
And then Schwartz calls up Gregory Maguire and is like, by the way, the first song is going to be called No One Mourns the Wicked. And Gregory Maguire was like, okay, I'm down. Let's make this into a musical.
And then he's like, fuck, I got to write this fucking
Yeah,
song.
like,
No one's I just made that up.
That's such a hard phrase to rhyme with. So Gregory Maguire, whose whole thing was like, I don't want this to be a parody. Like, this is like a really serious like backstory of like questions of good and evil. And then he was like, Stephen Schwartz,
a child has died.
A child has died.
Okay, it's not a parody.
It's not a parody. There's also like a bunch of homages to Harold Arlen, who wrote the music for The Wizard of Oz. So the I'm limited are the first 7 notes of Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
I love when when there's musical references.
Yeah.
That's so hard to do.
100%. And it's 7 notes because at the 8th note, you can be accused of copyright infringement. So they just did the first 7.
Like, never mind.
Yeah, so it's like a little inside joke.
That's funny.
Just a little fun fact. And then, so they go into developing Wicked. Stephanie J. Block is the original elphaba as they're doing the show, doing the workshops with Kristen Chenoweth. And then when they go to Broadway, they replace Stephanie J. Block with Idina Menzel because they wanted a bigger name to help launch the show with Adele Dazeem. Icon, legend, love her.
Yeah. Was Kristen Chenoweth a big name? Because I know she had already done Charlie Brown.
I think she was like a decent.
And was she doing the workshop?
She was a decently big name, yeah.
Okay.
So she was attached to it. And so when they were making the musical, they couldn't really use any movie copyright materials. So they pulled from illustrations from the original book, The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? And since then, I think it's like pretty clear to say it's become massive. It's like the West End's longest running show.
Hell yeah. It's still running.
It's still running. Like,
so I remember I was talking to Ron Peterson, and he has a friend who is elphaba, and he was saying that like she was really annoyed because if you ever fucked up while you're elphaba, because they're such rabid fans, they'd be like, you actually kind of messed up the opt up there.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, I know.
I know.
It's my job. Like I know.
Yeah, no, people are truly like, it's such a phenomenon. And like, I really think that they did such a good job.
Oh yeah, it's great. And it's its own thing.
Yeah.
Like you forget that it's not like technically an original idea because it is just such a unique thing.
Absolutely. And then I have a couple of just like fun facts about it that I found that I wanted to add in. I didn't really know where to add these in. But did you know that between Act 1 and Act 2, elphaba switches into elphaba glam makeup?
So she gets glammed up.
She gets glammed up. She gets eyeliner, lipstick, contour.
Love that. Well, I love the vlog, like the vlogs that Lindsay Heather Pierce has done in the past. And she's like a Broadway. She was from the Glee Project.
Okay, love her.
But she's an elphaba. She was an elphaba, and she was like vlogging her like experience. She like fucked up her knee and stuff like that when she was supposed to be elphaba before the pandemic. And then after the pandemic, she was like doing all this like, I don't know, like all this like PT, and like she was like vlogging while she was elphaba, and it was so cool to see. And she was just like, I'm gonna be green forever. Like there's just like green in your nails and in your hairline because you get painted green. And she's like, it's not worth it to like you take a shower and you wash it off, but like it's not worth it to just like wash it all off because every single night
that's like into your pores.
You get you get painted again. Yeah. So who cares?
Absolutely. Truly not.
And she's like, when you stop, like you still find green.
Yeah.
For like
absolutely
weeks afterwards.
And that's what Lindsay Mendez said too, was that she was like pulling green like out of her pores. Oh. And Idina Menzel has this kind of fun quote where she was like, when I first showed up in the green paint, everyone was like, oh my God, you look insane. And she was like, that helped me get into character.
Of course, everyone's like, ugh. Ariana Grande absolutely killing the line read in the Wicked trailer. You're green.
You're green. Idina Menzel also created that riff in Defying Gravity. She was the one who was like, well, what?
are we going to talk about no fly shows? My favorite Wicked thing.
I figured you'd want to talk
Because I talk about it all the time.
Because you talk about it.
So at the end of Defying Gravity, she charms a broomstick and she flies with the broomstick. Okay. And she's like, I'm fucked. I'm done with the wizard. I'm going on my own way, all this stuff. And at the very end, when she goes, so if you care to find me, look to the western sky. She's like strapped into like either, sometimes it's a harness, sometimes it's like a rising kind of platform, but she's flying.
Yeah.
And you have to do this for 8 shows a week.
Yeah.
Maths included. And
crazy.
sometimes the machinery, it's like hydraulics or whatever, doesn't work. So if that happens, it's called a no-fly show.
Shake my damn head.
Where basically the choreography is changed. So when she goes, so if you gotta find me, she like goes like, she does like the body motion of just like being like a very like distinct kind of like pose with her hands up. And all the ensemble members basically fucking hit the deck. As if
so
she's
cool.
flying, and they still sing, but it's like ice everywhere, like dry ice everywhere and fog, and they're on the ground and they're still singing. So it still kind of like gives you that visual representation of flying.
And they use a ton of dry ice in the show.
Oh,
Apparently.
it's
It's like a nuts amount.
Because they need to do this with Back to the Future, because in Back to the Future, the musical, there's a car, and the car is on the fucking stage, and that's very fun. The DeLorean like flies or whatever. But sometimes the DeLorean just doesn't work, and then if that happens, then the show just ends.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, you simply need to have a figure out. You simply have to have a no-fly show.
You gotta have a no-fly show.
Yeah.
Also, did you know that elphaba, the reason her name is elphaba is because the writer of The Wizard of Oz is L. Frank Baum.
Oh, that's really funny.
It's L, F for Frank, fa, B for Baum, ba, elphaba.
That's great.
Is that cool?
I love stuff like that. That's just like a little. It's also a very good, like, names are super hard, and it's really hard to do names that are kind of made up.
Yes.
But still sound real.
100%.
That's how you get Cho Chang. Like, I'm sorry, J.K. Rowling, you're never going to escape the Cho Chang allegations. I'll never let you forget that.
It's like how every time I write a sketch, there's a Kevin in it. And I'm like, exactly. I need to learn new names.
I just can't. Like, but it's like Elphaba and Glinda, like, sound real. I guess Glinda the Good Witch was already invented. But, like, Galinda to the Glinda, like, the names sound.
Yeah, like, it needs to be weird enough that it's unique, but not, like, too weird that it's, like, it
takes away from it.
Also, oh my God, so random. I remember the other day, the Chapel Rowan is a Kaylee spelt with like Kayleigh.
That's fucking crazy.
That's her name. She's a Kaylee.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, she's one of those. Anyway, I just had to say that about Chapel Rowan because I forgot and then remembered, and I was like, this actually
her name is Kaylee.
Yeah, Kaylee Rose.
Wild.
I know, insane.
Not Rose.
Kaylee Rose. And that
Rose
was like
is
her
our
first
generation's
songs.
Maria. Do you know what I mean? Like, where it's like every single woman in our mother's generation is Marie or whatever.
Maria.
And now everyone's like, I'm blah, blah, Rose.
Blah, 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 Rose or Lee. And then also something I want to point out was the guy, Eugene Lee, who won a Tony Award for the scenic design of Wicked.
Oh, cool.
Was a scenic designer on Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
From the time it started until he died in 2023. Rest in peace, King.
Rest in peace.
We love you. Rest in peace, Eugene.
Live from New York.
Live
from Eugene Lee.
It's Eugene Lee.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. So that's basically all we have on Wicked. Musical guest. Adele Dazeem.
Musical guest. Adele Dazeem. And your host. Galinda. I love doing that.
So I wanted to talk. Now, that's kind of all we have on like Wicked.
Okay.
And then I have a couple of things
I know that you're just talking about Wicked, but the way just being like, I wanted to talk.
I wanted to talk.
Are you okay?
I just want to talk because I feel like, you know, vibes have been weird. I think you're mad at me and I'm definitely mad at you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so a lot going on.
Oh, no.
A lot going on. You know when someone texts you and they're like, hey, can you call me? I need to talk to you about something. I'm done with that. Now I just say like, you either need to call me now or you need to write out what you need to talk about because I'm going to have a panic attack.
Well, what I always do now is I say, hey, can I call? Not bad. Like it's not bad. And you sometimes will be like, it's about this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to call and I want to know if you're going to pick up. But I know that if somebody said, hey, can I call you? I'm like, what's going on? As opposed to being like, it's not bad. I literally just want to ask you about this thing. Like, you know what I mean? Logistics or whatever.
Have a phone conversation. Yes. No, because I think that's one of the most evil things you can do to someone.
I also
have something serious to talk about and be like, I have something serious I want to talk to you about it. Let's talk in 3 days.
No, that's fucked.
Like you've just ruined a week of my life.
That is fucked up. I also think and honestly, like I know that other people aren't going to believe this or whatever, because some people are big. As a person who's always late, okay. Always, you know this about me, 15 minutes late. I'm running behind.
Yeah, you're a good 15 minutes.
I'm a good 15 minutes. And
girl.
I understand that that's rude. I get that. Yeah. But you know what else people don't want to have the conversation of? That early is also rude.
Early is rude.
Or if I'm hosting you and you come up to my house early without checking with me, and you're like, I'm just showing, hey, I'm here. Sorry, I'm at your door. I know it's 15 minutes early. I'm like, well, I'm not ready.
I know. And there's also like different levels where it's just like, if you're someone who can just like entertain yourself, like if I show up somewhere early, I just go for like a 20-minute walk.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Or like, or just say like,
if it's really raining, like you can literally be like, you know what I mean? Like being like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm here early. Like I can just go and get a coffee, or like I can just sit on your couch and like chill. Like you can do whatever you need to do.
But there are some people where it's like, even if you come in my house and you're like, I'm just going to chill and hang out here, it's like, you are still someone who needs to be entertained. Whereas like some friends I have that I have no problem. Like, I know I don't need to entertain you.
But it's more just coming from this idea of like, I think that they're equally rude and that like humans are fallible and you're going to be early and you're going to be late and it's fine. But we need to have the conversation that it's because people like, it was when we were watching Chore Lord actually, and there was like a reference to somebody was like, it's actually not rude to be early. To be 15 minutes early, that's on time. And I was like, no, it's just it's not the time that was specified.
No, and I also think that there's like such a difference between someone who like typically runs like 15 to 20 minutes late and someone who is just like, I run late. And it's like, no, you show up to things 3 hours after they've started. It's rude and you waste people's time.
Yes. And like, there's a difference between two. Like I'm on time for like work.
Yeah.
Like if I know I need to be there and there's
then you're on time.
Yeah, I get that. But like sometimes you're like, well, look, because I also don't like and I know this is actually just a personality flaw. I get that. But I don't like showing up and we're not ready to go. Like people are like, you have to show up at this time.
And then it's like, so you just called me here to do nothing.
And then you have to sit on your phone for an hour.
Yeah, took a $40 Uber for what?
Exactly.
No, I agree. I think there's so many levels to it. I'm a real on the dot person.
You're very on the dot.
I like to be on the dot. Or
even if you're early, I feel like you
after.
message at the time.
Yeah.
Like
I just like to be, I don't know what it is. I'm just like, I've always kind of been like that. I used to be a really early person because it would calm my anxiety.
Yeah.
But it was the same. I would just like do something else and then show up on the dot.
But you know that you're in the area.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I feel that.
Now sometimes I try and like, if someone I know who's going to run 15 minutes late, then like I'll just also take an extra 15 minutes.
Yeah, you know what the time is.
Yeah. It's harder with like newer people, but nothing drives me crazy. Like someone who just like, or just like doesn't show up at all or like, is so late.
No, I hate when people don't show up at all. I'm like, that's crazy.
Especially if it's a 2-person hangout. Like if I'm just hanging out with you and you just never show up, that's literally standing someone up.
No, that's insane. But even if it's
like
a small
even
thing.
like a 3-person or 4-person hangout. Like, have you ever been in a situation where you're supposed to hang out with 2 friends and then one person shows up that like you're not as close with and the person who is kind of the reason you know each other doesn't show up?
I mean, I don't have as many friends as you have. You have a lot of friends that hang out in big groups. A lot of
friends. Anyway, let's talk about a couple of. First one is that there are a lot of queer readings of Wicked.
I feel that.
What do you think of this?
I mean, honestly, I would have to either read the book or see it again. I get why. I think that like anytime, like it's a very strong bond between 2 femme characters and this whole idea of like otherness and being othered.
100%.
And especially because isn't Glinda's kind of whole arc being like, you're like this too. Like you're also weird. It's just that you have this opportunity to basically like side yourself with the oppressor.
Absolutely.
But
and benefit from
it. I think also just like, I think the reality of it is like elphaba is very queer coded, just period.
Yeah. The Katie Lang thing really solidified that for me.
And I think that like this kind of idea of like whether or not Glinda is queer, this like queer woman in a very intense friendship with another woman.
Yeah.
Plus friendship breakup kind
it's
of
coded.
thing. Like that's just a thing that's happened. Like that's just that's just a reality of life.
It's also just like, yeah, there's something very like iconic to like the queer community of being like, we don't belong. We feel like we belong now. Like this sense of like wanting to belong.
Yeah.
Are huge, feelings in Wicked and having to overcome, oppression and being told that you're different and people looking at you and kind of being like, ew, especially like, in the 90s when the book was originally written where it was like, still it was kind of taboo to touch someone with AIDS.
Definitely. Like, and this idea of femininity, talking about the Katie Lang of it all, of like so much of like this like elphaba makeover, all this stuff is being like, you don't look how we think you should look to be attractive.
Also, there's a reading of it that says that like a lot of Glinda and elphaba, the What Is This Feeling loathing song is kind of like a classic like golden age musical song of two people falling in love, which I think is
Oh
cute.
yeah, that is cute. I also relate. That's how I feel. Like I do feel like annoyance and attraction are very
it's like,
similar
it's like,
feelings.
oh, it's so
I
annoying.
fucking hate you.
I hate you so much. Leave me alone.
Yeah. That is true. Honestly, it is a very golden age musical song of people falling in love.
Yeah. And then also just this idea like being deemed evil because of something that like you can't really help about yourself. That's like huge in queer communities too.
Definitely.
And also a lot of people say that Glinda and Elphaba really give butch and femme, which I love personally.
No, they definitely do.
They're giving butch and femme and we love it for
Lipstick
them.
lesbian.
They're giving lipstick lesbian. And then another funny thing is that Defying Gravity has kind of become this like dance hall remix track
Really?
for like it was featured at the 2007 Pride in Los Angeles. This Defying Gravity remix. It came out like on the Pride CD and stuff like that. And then Wicked, like the musical, got wind that this was happening, and they started selling merch at Pride that said "Friend of Elphaba."
Oh, that's funny.
Which is an allusion to the term "Friend of Dorothy."
Yes,
Do you know
of course.
Friend of Dorothy?
I know Friend of Dorothy.
I'll explain it for if you don't know what it is.
There's a thing that like Kalenko says of like she's a friend of rolling if somebody's transphobic.
Yes,
You know this?
yeah.
Friend of
is
rolling.
she
a friend of rolling?
She's she a friend of rolling.
She's transphobic.
She's transphobic. So Friend of Dorothy was this coded language that gay men used to say like, oh, are you a friend of Dorothy? Meaning like, oh, are you gay? Because in it's kind of unclear where it originated, but
the gay men love Dorothy.
yeah, Dorothy, first of all, gay icon. But second of all, there's like sometimes so they say like, Dorothy, you have a lot of queer friends. And so people say like, oh, are you a friend of Dorothy?
Oh,
because
that's
you're queer.
funny.
But the origins, there's no confirmed origin because it just became one of those things.
Yeah.
But a funny thing I learned that I just had to bring up was that the Naval Investigative Service that was investigating like queer people in the military back in the day thought at one point that Dorothy like was a woman who was running a ring of homosexual military people. And so they launched an investigation to try and find Dorothy.
The SWAT wants to take Dorothy
Yeah, this was
down.
like a government intelligence agency being like,
Who the fuck is
who
Dorothy?
is Dorothy? Where is she? And why does she have all the gays?
Where? Let's take down Dorothy
take
and
down
her
Dorothy,
gays.
like-
just like a bunch of men around a table being like, and we got to figure out who Dorothy is. Where are we on that? That's
Literally.
insane.
Yeah, isn't that freaking nuts?
That's really nuts.
And then the other question is to tie it back into our season, like, how does Wicked tie into the Salem witch trials in your mind?
Okay, well, one thing about the queer thing before we talk about
Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
You've seen that recent, like it was like a year or two ago, the Pride poster that Wicked did for
No.
Pride, and it's like a green hand holding a white hand saying
Yes.
love is love. And
Oh
everyone's
my
like,
God.
girl, you simply can't compare green hand and white hand. I wonder if it was like a Black
Oh my
Lives Matter
God.
thing too. I think it might have been. I don't know, but it was something along the lines of
Okay.
basically being like green is oppressed, by the way. So how does Wicked tie into the Salem witch trials?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any like obvious tie-ins, but I figure we should talk about it.
Yeah, because that's what the podcast is about. I mean, I think that obviously just this idea of like, I don't know, like witchcraft being tied to and associated with this idea of like not lining up with traditional femininity
Absolutely.
and being an other and that being dangerous. Like Elphaba has to fake her own death and is trying to be killed. Is like almost being killed the entire time, basically.
Absolutely.
And it's just this idea of like being an outlier. And obviously people in the Salem witch trials eventually, as like the hysteria grew and grew, weren't all these ideas of like, they weren't all women who lived outside the norm, but in the very beginning it was women who didn't conform to this idea of womanhood, whether it be because of class or
Yeah.
race or other things. But like in the puritanical sense, they're like, well, you're not Goody Putnam,
Yeah.
so what are you doing?
Absolutely. I also think it goes back to the whole like good versus evil thing where it's just like if you are called evil, like how long until you become evil? You know, like will you just say like, oh, if that's the way you choose to see me, that's what I'll see. And I feel like that's very much like what the witch trials became in a way where it was like
There's
lot
nothing
of
you could do.
yeah, a lot of these accused women were like, okay, you're gonna call me a witch. Well, then like I'm a witch. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, yeah, I guess I'm like putting curses on people and causing ruckus, et cetera, et cetera.
And that's what saves you, honestly, in this weird way. It's like being like, fuck, yeah, I'm not going to be able to change your opinion.
it's very like I think it's something that is hard to reckon with as you like get older and understand more about society and the world is that like there are roles that need to be filled, roles that need to be played, and like some people just end up with the cards dealt in a certain way.
Oh, it's insane.
And it's like, I'm not saying it's right, but it's like, it's nuts the way that like you can just be someone that people look at and think like, oh, you're evil, you're mean, you're bad.
Well, especially like if you aren't religious, when you just think of the idea of like the entire makeup of your life is made up entirely of luck. Like you've won the genetic lottery, like being born at this time in this country to our parents. Like you could be born in so many other times that are so bad in which you don't even make it past infancy or which like, you know, it's like me being like, I don't know what my career, blah, 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 blah. It's like those are thoughts that you can have because
you've made it this
your
far.
needs are met.
Yeah, you're up the pyramid.
Exactly, which is wild to think about because there's no, and this is the whole thing of like, and maybe this is too much of, we've been talking too much about good and evil or whatever, but it's like, when you think about this idea of like, oh, well, so-and-so doesn't deserve this, or you don't deserve this, or so blah, 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 you don't deserve your success or whatever. It's like, nobody deserves anything because this idea of like deserving success then denotes that like other people deserve the situations they've been put in.
For sure.
Which is completely made up of luck and nothing else.
Yeah.
Like that's whack to think. I'm just like, we just were born in a country with like access to medicine that's way cheaper than it is around the world. Like you could be having, you could have tuberculosis in Africa where the medicine is like marked up
crazy
amount. Like there's just
happens.
crazy shit like that. So to be like, oh, you don't deserve this. People need to get what they deserve. It's like this concept of deserved doesn't exist.
100%.
Like nobody deserves anything.
Like I think that everyone deserves a good life. And the fact that not everyone gets that is a shame.
It's wild.
It's a shame and a sham.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do really think it's interesting too, just thinking of like, this is kind of one of, I think, the newer pieces of like media about witches that we've known. And it's so interesting to see how it's evolved and how we're now kind of saying like, you know, what happens to especially women when they're in these situations where they're just demonized and demonized and demonized over again. I think that it's really interesting that we have this exploration and even this idea of like what, because even I remember like there have been, I feel like, discussions about like, was the Wicked Witch of the West ever really in the wrong ever in The Wizard of Oz? Because like, yeah, like she didn't really do anything except for fly around in the broom, look scary, and want her dead sister's shoes back. You know what I mean?
That's really
But
fun.
then like, just because you're ugly and you're weird and people don't understand you, they're like, you're wicked.
Well, that's so much of the stuff even on Disney. Like I always think of the whole like the Sharpay of it all. Of in High School Musical, everyone's
Sharpay
like,
should be the lead.
Yeah, so Sharpay's done the work and she's been the lead forever and she cares about the musical theater department and is trained. And Gabriella's like, I don't know if I want to do this. But it's like, that's almost like the opposite end of it, which is why it's also interesting kind of bringing Glinda into this of like, and it's again, this whole witch trials thing of like, damned if you're doing, you're damned if you don't.
For sure.
You can associate yourself and really sit at the right hand of the oppressor if you play your cards right and you still lose.
Absolutely.
And Sharpay is a good example of that in that it's like she's hyper feminine and therefore stupid.
Yeah.
And it's like nobody takes Glinda seriously. Nobody thinks that she's got a brain or anything.
Yeah.
Because she's hyper feminine. So it's like there's just, I mean, it's actually kind of awesome because if you really think about it, womanhood is a prison.
And it is actually, because either way, you're imprisoned and you have a flying monkey as a pet.
Well, that's this whole thing, and we'll wrap it up because you don't need to talk about this forever. But there's this big like discourse online right now, and they're talking about like Marlo Granados, who is a Toronto writer who wrote Happy Hour, which is one of my favorite books. It's a lovely book, and she was basically called in this like article a literary it girl, and people were kind of talking about this being like, when women make art, they have to commodify themselves and sell kind of this idea of the creation of the art, which is true of like Frida Kahlo and all these people like Sylvia Plath. When we think of like the women artists that we really respect in a certain way, like their entire life is commodified in the way that male artists' lives, like we know a lot about Picasso's life, but really we know his art. Do you know what I mean? Where
100%.
It's like, I feel like nobody could name a Sylvia Plath poem, but they know how she died.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people know that like Frida Kahlo was in a bus crash. Like people know stuff about women artists more so about their lives and this kind of idea of being an artist than the actual art.
Absolutely.
And that's something that's interesting to talk about. But again, it's this whole idea of she's like a very glamorous person and kind of has almost taken on this like Anita Lou's Gentlemen Prefer Blondes persona. And it's like, it's her personality from what I understand. I've never met her.
Yeah.
But it's like, she's very like glamorous and the book itself is like really kind of like a pursuit of joy. Like nothing bad really happens. And it was hard for her to sell for a long time because nobody wants stories about women that are happy. Like they
they want women to suffer.
These women should probably be raped.
These women should probably suffer at the hands of men.
And so that's kind of the whole thing. And so she's not taken seriously on one end because they're like, she's commodified her existence. And they were like, and in this, like all these author photos, like she's wearing like designer and she's like vapid, blah, 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 all this stuff.
Fun.
And she was like, I'm just like living my, like I am who I am. It's not my fault that people like me, basically. Like that's not what she said specifically, but it's this whole idea of being like, commodified for being hyper feminine, and because this has been weaponized in a way that allows you to succeed and sell things because you're not making yourself hyper masculine, which is the way that other people succeed. You know, like if you think of somebody like Zadie Smith or Sally Rooney, they've like basically molded themselves into being like, I'm a male author. You're not going to know anything about my personal life, and I'm going to talk about intellectual things, and beyond that, like you're not going to catch me at a movie premiere. You're not going to catch me at this, and that is seen as okay, and that is seen as like what you should do. Yeah. Those women get torn apart all the time also for being like traitors and all this stuff, right? It's tall poppy syndrome. Yeah. But if you don't do that and you do this opposite end of it, then you're also fucking skewered for being frivolous, and this whole idea of being like, okay, so she's selling her fucking books. Yeah. Are you that mad that she's selling her book that is very good? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just fucking bullshit.
I guess like in conclusion, you're a Wicked or you're a Glinda or you're some sort of combination of both.
But it doesn't matter either way, you're fucked.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's, we're really getting to the root of what it means to be a vilified woman in this series.
Great.
And it sucks. And even if you think you're not experiencing it, you're experiencing it. You just don't know yet.
It's that whole thing of like, if you're not the gay cousin, if you don't have a gay cousin, you're the gay cousin.
The gay cousin.
It's like you are suffering.
Yeah. If you don't, Yep.
Anyways, on that light note,
let's make this tragedy about us?
Sure, and then we'll wrap it up.
Have a little quick one to wrap it up.
Okay.
Hey.
Let's make this tragedy about us.
Weird mix up of my rhythm there.
I liked it though. Kept it fresh.
I was kind of, honestly, I'm a little sleepy.
That's okay.
I've been thinking about Wicked all day, and I cried sobbing open sobs on the bus listening to Defying Gravity on the way.
It's such a good
song. Yes. Okay, easy. What evil villain do you want turned into a musical about their life and backstory?
I'm trying to think of I love villains. Like I do just think they're just like inherently more interesting.
Yeah.
I would love we get a lot of her anyway, but like the Santana arc in Glee is lovely. God. Like,
yes.
I love this kind of idea of like a queer cheerleader who is feeling this type of way because of like this trap of femininity, but also, I don't know. I love that.
Oh my God. Yes. Love.
Just kind of evil. I love a mean girl. Like I really do. I mean, like I love like a lot of those Ryan Murphy shows because he just has these absolutely abhorrent women saying such mean things.
Yeah.
And that to me is like an interesting character because then you see them and they're like, yeah, well, this is my life and this is where I'm coming from. It's almost as if this is a veneer.
Yeah. It's almost as if I'm mean because I have to be.
And I love that.
Yeah.
Like I love that.
Mine would be, I think, the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. And I'm wondering if it needs to be done, but I don't think it's been done as a musical. And I'm saying specifically, I want.
As a musical. I love that.
And
I could get
see
behind that.
the downside of Wonderland.
Ooh. Because I don't think it's been done as a musical. I feel like Tim Burton surely tried to get his fucking hands in that in some way.
Oh, of course he's like, I'm gonna Burton this shit
up.
Oh,
yeah. What if it was creepy?
What if they had big heads?
And big eyes.
Big heads, big eyes. What if he had scissors for a dick?
Fucking get over yourself, Edward Scissor Dick.
Yeah, Scissor Dick.
Fuck off.
Dude, this is gonna be like 40 years down the line, and I'm in the room for a Tim Burton movie, and he's like,
and he
"Hey, we just pulled up a 40-year-old clip of you calling me Tim Burton Scissor Dick," and I don't get the part.
But they bring you in to show it to you. Just
just say like, "Just so you know, we loved you."
But because you called Tim Burton Scissor Dick
40 years ago,
you're not getting the part.
Kill yourself.
Get out of here.
No, sorry, I shouldn't say kill myself.
You've already been told.
Sorry.
You've already been scolded by the comments.
Sorry. Okay, shall we sign the frick off?
Let's sign the frick off, Edward Scissor Dick.
Thank you to all my Edward Scissor Dicks out there. I love you so much.
Honestly, to the Edward Scissor Dick Nation, thank you so much for watching. We've been listening.
Historians. And yes, for everyone asking, we soon will announce what our plans are for the future.
We just got to get it together. But the ideas are percolating. Let's just say, big things soon.
Big things soon. The only thing we're missing is one of those whiteboard calendars.
Exactly.
Once I have one of those, gonna be unstoppable.
Oh, it's over for every other podcast.
But big things are cooking. And if you're a podcast and want to be our friend, let us know.
We've been thinking about that. We need podcast friends.
It's like couples when couples are like, we need a couple friends.
We need to go on a double date.
I'm so sick of being out with normal people and being like, oh, when the microphone.
When it does what, Blair?
I don't know.
Okay. And
I didn't
think
think that one through.
I feel like on that
Okay.
note, I feel like we're good to go.
Log into the Patreon if you want, or don't.
Log into it and just log into
Follow
it.
us on the gram. Follow Girl Historians
Yes.
Instagram. Follow our personal Instagrams. Follow.
Listen to the Wicked soundtrack.
Listen to the Wicked soundtrack. Follow your heart. Follow your mayor. Follow your local business section.
Okay, we've been filming
of
we've been recording for far too long.
Association.
We've
Figure
lost our
out
minds. Okay,
events,
Blair.
community events happening in your area.
You're just trying to put as much kind of undiscernible bullshit around Edward Scissordick in the hopes that it gets buried and Tim Burton can't find
I'm
it.
sorry, Tim, if you're listening.
No, I think he might be racist.
I love you. No, I don't. I don't love you. I take it back.
Shit, got him.
Damn.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.